I'm Gentleman Death in silk and lace, come to put out the candles, the canker in the heart of the rose. Hi, I'm Diana, the face behind Fate Reviews. Welcome to a new edition of Fate News. Find my book picks for this month and save time choosing what to read next. A mythological creature we'll find often in fan-run books is the vampire, a beast who has evolved from its more animalistic form in Dracula to a more human-like form with various features by the hands of Stephanie Meyer and multiple other authors. But probably the precursor of this contemporary vampire is no other than master storyteller Anne Rice. She introduced a more refined creature with morally gray standards, or better yet, with a moral dilemma. Few can create a compelling universe that lasts beyond the trilogy, and that's the case with her extraordinary series, The Vampire Chronicles, made up of 13 books in total, being one of its main characters and storyteller, the vampire Lestat.
Lestat just sprang to life in the corner of my eye. I mean, this character took on all this ferocious life. Now, whether, what that came from in my own life experience, whether that was my husband's presence, his vitality, I'm not sure. But when characters come to life that way, they leave behind all the influences.
So let me introduce you to my favorite book so far in this series, titled precisely The Vampire Lestat. This is the second installment, so to better get acquainted with the characters in this story, you might want to read her famous Interview with a Vampire and Book 1 of the Chronicles. This series is made up of books. What I mean by this is that the protagonist of each installment narrates events of whichever episode of their lives, becoming thus a published book and the story. At least that's the case for the first few installments. I haven't read the entire series, but I'm at the middle. So going back to the vampire Lestat, he is wild, daring, irreverent, rebellious, and adventurous. And in this book, we'll see him become a rock star, despite others warning him about the consequences of exposing himself to the public so much. Remember that, as usual, the existence of vampires is a well-guarded secret, and revealing it means dire results for the society and the culprit. Why choose this book as my top recommendation of this month? Well, it has mainly to do with Anne Rice. The way she describes and sets every detail in her world feels as if she had lived in that time and place.
A lot of notes, really. I write in just free form on my computer. I just create different documents discussing all aspects of the novel. But then when I plunge into the novel, when I actually plunge into it and live in the world of the novel, I have a very hard time doing anything but writing. And I write from the first page to the end, going back and forth, revising and so forth the whole time. But I'm living in that novel in a very painful and joyful kind of way.
So vivid, so realistic, so accurate and magnificent. Also, the events, the characters, the complex mental and existential concepts they juggle with. Everything is so well put together, so compelling. This is a book that will enrapture you from beginning to end. Now, let's find out the upcoming and promising releases for this month. I've modified the format of this section from this issue onwards. Now, I want to introduce you to my top 2 releases of the month. From romantic author Emily Henry comes Funny Story. And it is funny indeed, because how is it that Daphne ends up with her ex-fiance's new fiance's ex? Convoluted, right? It's even a tongue twister just to say it. Hey, couldn't resist temptation and found yourself in the library but don't know what to pick? Download my on-the-go guide to your mobile. so that you can carry an interesting selection of books all the time right at your fingertips. And moving to Fun Room, Judy Lin brings a story that will hopefully be as enchanting as its book cover. In Song of the Six Realms, what starts as a normal situation where a talented young female musician performs for the nobles will end up in a complex plot with demons, deities, lost memories, monsters, and romance. If you're curious as to other promising books coming out soon, check out the Dive Deeper section below. Finding what to read next and narrowing your options have never been easier. Thank you for watching. See you next month.